Men are slowly giving up and disappearing from society. Today's video comes from Moon. His channel will be linked in the description so you can go and check him out and support him. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Increasingly, more and more men are giving up. Giving up on relationships, careers, and society as a whole. Resentment is growing, unemployment is becoming rampant, and keeping your head above water seems almost impossible for many men today. This is leading to more men than ever dropping out of society entirely. And it's not just that, men are becoming infantilized. With terms like adulting now becoming normal, it's clear that something ugly is happening that needs to be addressed. We live in such a strained, unnatural environment that is bound to start to wear on society, but men in particular are battling to keep up and are slowly giving up. Giving up on dreams, giving up on trying, and giving up on doing anything constructive. And for a large part, it's really not their fault, as this trend isn't just a personal struggle, but a societal issue that we must urgently address. So why is this happening? And why has it gotten so bad in 2024? On the surface, it's a long and complicated story. Life has never been simple for any human, and objectively speaking, for men in the West today, it's never been better. We have all the technology we need, food delivered to your door with the tap of a finger, dating readily available to anyone with a simple swipe. Any products, items, or experiences that you want can be had with the tap of your phone. But over time, all of these comforts of life destroys the importance and necessity of struggle, without any value placed on higher goals. Where there just is no reason to care, means there's no reason for people to properly live or have the will to achieve greatness. Which is probably why 40% of young men aged 18 to 45 meet the criteria for depression, and 49% of 18 to 23-year-olds have had a thought of passing themselves in the past 2 weeks alone. And we're seeing the symptoms of this problem everywhere. The sapping away of our vision and ambition permeates in all aspects of modern society today. Our culture, architecture, relationships, bodies and minds. Past civilizations before us have always placed their emphasis on beauty, wisdom and logic for all the population to see, with great town squares, bustling with art, life and community. These things were placed above all else as the bedrock of their society.
So, one of the articles that was published on The Guardian that says, without fear of the future, men and boys have no reason to work hard and to strive for greatness. Without fear of the future. In other words, life has become so easy for men, survival has become so easy for men, that men are now giving up because they have nothing that they have to survive, to strive for. Society has made life very easy for men, and because life is so easy for men, that's the reason why men are giving up. That's why men need to be put into the military. Men need to be given more responsibilities. Men need to be pushed more. Men need to be taxed. Men need to be controlled and led, or else they become lazy. Because life is too easy for men. Do you see how toxic this notion is? They don't even think about the struggles that the average man is going through. More so, they say it's because we have life too easy. Talk about gaslighting.
Laying out a code of honor and struggle in its people to achieve greatness. Comforts were shown in art and culture, but as an aspiration for achieving something great, for following your mastery. But today our cities are mostly devoid of all of this character.
So this is a complete nonsensical view. The belief is that if men had to go out and hunt for their food, if men had to actually work hard for even harder for things, then they would be getting married and having children and striving for greatness. It's not like society disparages men. It's not like women in society have said that men, we don't like you, we don't want you, go away. It's not like men are treated absolutely poorly and that the typical man is HATE'd more than a cockroach in Western society. No, we're going to ignore all of these things and say that it's because of toxic masculinity and misogyny why these men are walking away, why these men are giving up on society. It has nothing to do with the way that men are treated in society. It has nothing to do with the fact that women have been out hurting men since the 90s, but they are still going on about the gender pay gap. It has nothing to do with the effects of M2 or things like mansplaining or things like manspreading. Oh no, it's not about how men are treated. It's because men are too damn lazy and have life too good. They have food delivered to them. Oh my gosh. Something that should be very well said is the fact that throughout the course of history, over the last 200,000 years, only around 30% of all men ever reproduced. Yes, 30 to 40%. Most men did not reproduce, while 80% of all women did reproduce. What does this tell you? Well, one of the big things to consider is the fact that, based on this information, it means that most women were reproducing with the exact same men. Okay? So there were a specific group of men that had the lion's share of women and were reproducing with these women. However, do consider another factor. Yes, men served as men were more likely to be kept as SLAVEs than women. All right, and and men of throughout history have had higher mortality rates than women, significantly higher mortality rates. But this still does not explain the reason why so few men got married. The reality is that over the course of history, most men walked away. Most men chose not to marry. Most men chose not to have children. Most men decided to become celibate. This is what society does not want to talk about. This is the dark truth about society and history, that over the course of history, most men have opted out of relationships, dating, courting, and have instead chosen to live by themselves on their own because life has never throughout history been easy for men. It's only during the modern day era where men were told, listen, there's a thing called the American dream. And if you serve society, if you give everything for society, society will give you everything. It will give you the car. It will give you the house. It will give you the wife who is submissive. It will give you the children. It will give you the little dog and the white picket fence. It was a social contract. And as a result of it, men became stakeholders within society. So men gave everything, and then women's liberation came along, and all of the rights, privileges, and prestige that men had, the authority that men had in society was stripped away, and women were given special privileges while men were given special punishments. Men increasingly understand this today. The juice is not worth the squeeze. If you look at how women and society treats men, there is no reason why any man would want to be in a relationship, get married, or have children. So instead, they are choosing to live simple lives of comfort where they make just enough to survive and thrive and no more.
And instead they're marked out by the most cost-efficient, bland and sterile designs to facilitate a simpler self-motivated purpose. It's why people flock all over the world to a handful of remaining cities that retain their centuries-old charm to feel and experience the character of bygone societies that were motivated by higher ideals. Ideals greater than our modern two-dimensional ways of thinking. With a prioritization of comfort, lust and opulence, and flashy materialism over individual excellence and greater community, we're now reeling in the aftermath, becoming instead a generation of mandated mediocrity.
This very notion is so stupid. It's because men are too comfortable by men are opting out because men have no challenge. Society is one big challenge for men. There's very little reason to work hard or strive for anything today when you look at what the structure of society is, where the baby boomers own everything and are gaslighting us into believing that hard work will actually pay off. People like me who are now in our 40s, or some of the older Gen Xers who are pushing 60, have well long realized it was all a dream. Okay? The American dream was nothing more than a dream because you had to be asleep to believe it. This is something that George Carlin said. And by the time people started to wake up, they finally they started to realize that we were actually living in a nightmare all along. And that's the honest to goodness truth about the situation. It's a sad reality, but that's the truth of the reality that we live in. And it's always been that way. It's always been one big lie. The baby boomers have taken everything for themselves and left us with nothing, and they still want more. And boy, oh boy, are they going to get it. And it doesn't matter how they go about it, but they'll get what they want. They'll say that it's everyone and anyone else but them, but the reality is it's them, and it's always been them. And just to be very clear about something, if you had a society like you had today, where let's say you went back to the 1800s or 1600s, and men were treated as poorly as they are in society by women, by society, by the evil simp. The simp is an evil, wicked, vindictive creature. It is a miserable creature, okay? A despicable creature. If men were being treated this way back then, do you know what men would be doing? Men would not be getting married. Most men never did, but even fewer would get married. What they would do is they would gather their resources together, build a log cabin, move away from society, or if they did live in society, they would avoid relationships at all costs and they would hoard their resources. So they would go hunting. They would go hunting for things, they would do all of the things that they need to do, but they wouldn't get married and they wouldn't have children. They would simply hoard their resources. And that's it. Anything that they needed, they would simply pay for. If they needed a doctor, they would pay for a doctor. If they needed a nurse, they would pay for a nurse. It's as simple as that. But they would hoard all of their resources. And because think about it logically, children have always been expensive. You've always had to work harder to feed your kids, to feed your wife, to provide for everyone. But if you're a single man, even hundreds of years ago, and you don't have wife and kids to provide for, and you're self-sufficient, well, you don't need a larger house. You can rent a room somewhere. And the cost of living was substantially lower than it is today. So you go out into the world, you go hunting, and you basically gather up your resources. You sell what you need to sell, you store food as best you can, and you live as best you can. A lot of men would just build a house. They would build a house. They would have guys, they have a log cabin house, they have access to wood, tons of wood so they can heat their home. They have a place to go potty. They have pretty much everything they need in these places, everything they need in their homes. All they have to do is go out and get food and water. Oh, they need water. They just build a well. What else? Aside from that, men don't need much to survive. Men have never needed much to survive. The average man, it doesn't matter if it's in 1700, 1200, or 2024. The average man does not need a lot to survive in a society where men are not respected, but instead humiliated and punished for simply being a man, while shamed for not doing enough for society and gaslit all the way. Men are simply going to walk away. So no one wants to admit the truth. Men are treated like crap. Women have changed. A relationship with the typical woman in Western society today is not a good thing for the typical man. Women say, don't ask what we bring to the table. Understand that we are the table. There are so many videos online of women saying that they need a man to take their car to a mechanic for them because the mechanic will take advantage of them or they just don't want to do it. They need a man to get the oil changed or change it for them. They need a man to cook for them because they do not know how to cook. Yes, you heard me right. This is the level of insanity. They need a man to clean up because not only do they not like to clean, but they are not good at it. Because, female women's liberation told them that cooking and cleaning were things that SLAVEs did. So they never learned how to do it, and they refuse to learn how to do it. And psychologically, they are predispositioned to not do it. They have mental blocks against it. They view cooking as a horrible thing, but they would like a man that will cook for them because men are not conditioned to believe that cooking is bad. But they are conditioned to believe that cooking for oneself is bad. So they want a man to do the cooking and the cleaning for them and pay the bills and everything else. And the reward that the man gets is that he gets their presence because they are goddesses. You have videos of these women who are now saying that, black men. I had a video from Soraya where this woman said that black men don't want to share their blessings with them. And the reasons why they're doing this and they're going overseas and marrying women of other ethnicities is because they HATE their mothers, because black men are supposed to be taught to worship their mothers, and if they don't worship their mothers, then they don't love their mothers, then they HATE their mothers, and that's the reason why they HATE black women. This is a sick, guys. Do you see the levels of gaslighting here? That's some insane gaslighting. Insane gaslighting. And this is how modern women think. They believe that everything should be handed to them. They believe that they are goddesses that are supposed to be worshipped. And if they don't get what they want, they're going to throw a hissy fit and just shame and blame men. I saw some idiot in my comments saying, go where you are needed and endure. Because basically, that's male disposability. That's what a stupid simp would say. That's why I've told you guys, I'm not going to sacrifice myself for anyone. The simp pastor, I've shown you his clips many times saying that, men need to sacrifice. They should not be asking they should not be trying to understand women. They should be trying to say, what can I do to better serve you? How much more can I serve you? Okay? A man's value comes from what he is able to sacrifice, and his legacy will be a legacy of sacrifice, and it will give him a legacy of purpose. This is a sick society that we live in. This is a society that wants to destroy us, and that is why it's so important that we simply walk away from it, or rather run away. And guys, if you're enjoying the content, check out the Angry Guy Clubhouse. Inside, you'll get exclusive videos, top-tier expat and passport road travel tips, digital nomad guides, passive income strategies, pop culture and geek culture commentary, and hard-hitting manosphere content. Free subscribers have access to videos, podcasts, articles, and the community chat, plus receive the passive income blueprint and digital nomad blueprint just for joining. Paid subscribers unlock even more value, including exclusive guides like the How to Build an Online Business in 24 Hours ebook, wealth building blueprints, and crypto updates. Join us today by clicking the link in the description and take your journey to the next level.
And does this explain why men today seem to struggle more than ever while seemingly having more than ever? America in particular is not actually in a recession. In fact, on paper, the economy looks like the best it's been in a while. Unemployment has dropped, GDP is up, but what the people are actually experiencing is a completely different story. We can see this in a study by the University of Michigan on consumer sentiment, which gathers data based on how consumers feel about the current state of finances. In 2022, it dropped to an all-time low. Prices of our average daily needs like gas and food have increased in unbearable percentages. In contrast, salary increases do not match, putting a high strain on budgets.
Inflation is showing no signs of slowing down as Americans pay over $1,000 a month more on the same essentials we were buying 3 years ago. Nothing's changed but price. The latest consumer price index for March showing basic necessities like our food, housing, and gas are all continuing to cripple Americans' wallets with higher prices.
Our wages are actually down against inflation since Biden took office. So not only are prices soaring, but our wages, at least if you measure hourly wages, are not keeping up at all.
Keeping your head above water has become the new normal instead of owning a home with a white picket fence. The rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer, with the middle class disintegrating completely. All the knowledge of the past of just going to college, getting a job, and buying a home immediately is just completely irrelevant for anyone working and living in 2024. The universities have skyrocketed in prices to absurd levels. The housing market is in a complete giant bubble. Everyone's sending out job applications more and more, all while using these automated testing systems, applying up to 100 jobs a day and still not getting anywhere. All the while major companies repeatedly tell us that they can't find any workers for their companies. And the results of this are clear. People are drifting towards more unfulfilling jobs, or just not even having a job at all, while the rich buy up resources, real estate, and everything that used to be the cornerstones of the middle class, that is now just an investment hidden through an offshore bank account for some giant investment fund. Basically like absolute trash. Since the 1980s, testosterone levels have dropped more than 50%, and yet we're told to ignore it. Why? because there's a coordinated effort to suppress masculinity and turn men into something they were never meant to be. This decline is no accident. We're constantly exposed to harmful chemicals in our food and everyday products, bombarded with estrogenic chemicals from plastics, junk food, and sedentary lifestyles, which is why testosterone levels have been declining for decades, with a 17% drop among 60-year-olds in 2004 compared to 1987. Sperm count and strength in men are also decreasing exponentially, with a 32.5% decrease in mean sperm concentration in the last 50 years. The cost of having a job also plays a part in stripping them of their dignity. Transport costs to their job, depending on the amount, could take a huge chunk of their salary, so that at the end of the day, they can only pay for rent or food and not both. A government grant could replace their salaries, and they earn more or less the same amount.
What's also helping to pay the bills is, as I said, the U.S. government, in particular, our disability programs for people who are unable to work.
So basically, what ends up happening in the United States and what's happened for decades is men basically work themselves to DEATH. And you have evil individuals like this guy saying that what men are doing now is filing for disability, qualifying for disability, because a lot of men have serious ailments as a result of working for many years in fields that just destroy their bodies. So you guys you have men with backs and all kinds of problems, and usually they'd still be working and pushing themselves until they cannot work anymore, like a camel that, keeps on going until its back gives out. But because these men don't have families, these men don't have children, and these men feel demoralized in a society that absolutely despises them, they're now saying, you know what? It's not worth it. It's cheaper, 100% cheaper, to not work anymore, not invest anymore in society, and basically focus on myself, my own happiness, and let the state pay for it. And guys, you can actually take advantage of this too, 100%. In today's challenging world, knowing how to thrive without spending a dime can make all the difference. That's why I created the Buy Nothing and Thrive course. This 12-lesson crash course teaches you how to secure cash, money, food, housing, healthcare, and more, all without spending a dime for any of it. Imagine having a trusted advisor showing you how to leverage available resources to stabilize your finances and grow your wealth. Join me and learn step-by-step strategies to maximize what's available to you and enhance your financial stability. Click the link in the description to sign up now.
Those programs seem to have morphed away from their original humane intention and now seem to provide an alternative income source to regular employment for several millions, for millions and millions of these guys.
If a job doesn't support your basic needs of a home, food, and transport, it wears thin in justifying the effort for this job, especially if you're not getting any experience. And in most cases, if you go into the gig economy, absolutely no security either. All for minimum wage. There's even a new term called quietly quitting, where you do the bare minimum of your job to the point that you're almost rendered useless and you get fired or simply quit. The fact that this term even exists shows that attention is desperately needed to solve this problem. And while this is happening, it's becoming more and more common for both partners in a household to be living the same life, or even with most males' partners actually being the breadwinner. And whilst this isn't necessarily a problem at all, it is leading to some weird modern problems in the household. Men with families are actually switching their roles with their wives, except they're not actually doing what their wives would do if they were to stay at home.
When you look at what I guess in Britain is called NEET, N-E-E-T, do you say that also in Australia? Neither employed nor in education or training. When you look at that huge group of well over 6 million prime age men, the story they're telling about their lives is really pretty devastating. It's pretty distressing. They basically don't do civil society. There's almost no worship, almost no volunteering, almost no charitable work. They've got a lot of time on their hands, but they report doing strangely little help around the home or help with other people at home.
Notice he says no volunteering, not working in one's community, not helping as much around the home. In other words, men are not contributing to society anymore. They are not contributing to society outside, they're not contributing outside of the home, and they're also not contributing inside of the home. A lot of it is because these men are single, but more and more men realize it's just not worth it, and they're just going to do the bare minimum. And that's the smartest move to make right now, is just to basically be unemployed. I mean, if you're going to be on the hook for child support for 18 years, the best move is to become disabled, go on disability, find a cheap way to survive. So, you have a roof over your head, food in your belly, get yourself a GOG account, or a lot of guys will go with Steam. I say go with GOG, good old games. And, you know, it's really it's really as simple as that. Guys, maybe I should ask GOG for a sponsorship. Oh my gosh. I so may do that. I 100% may actually reach out to GOG and say, GOG, would you guys like to sponsor my videos? I am such a big fan of yours. Basically, Grand Old Games is a service. Good Old Games. I know you guys get pissed off when I mess it up. Good Old Games is a service that allows you to purchase your games DRM free. It was originally started to allow you guys to purchase your games, a lot of older titles that you may have missed, but now it's expanded to a lot of newer titles. So there's a ton of new games that come out every day, and they find their way to GOG. All the games are DRM free, so you can download them. And if I want to share one with my brother or my cousin or a family or my best friend, it doesn't matter. Realistically speaking, you're not supposed to transfer the games to anyone. It's basically a system of trust, but you own the game, okay? And no one can take it away from you. You basically download it, and that's it. They also have an installer, and with the installer, it allows you to do things like play your games online, just like you would play them with Steam, on Steam. But for a lot of guys, the idea of being able to download your games offline is pretty sweet. And the fact is that the offline versions don't really have, most of them do not have any online connectivity. Some of them do, if the developer has created like servers separately for those games, but the vast majority don't. That's actually a plus for guys because you're getting the offline experience. If you look at Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, they're threatening to ban anyone who's installing mods that make certain modifications to the game offline experience that creates custom scenarios and matchups, which is absolute BS. So basically, you're creating your own stories. People are creating their own stories in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. It's not affecting multiplayer. It's not a form of cheating. It's just basically creating new experiences, and they're letting you know that they're going to ban you from the game if you do this, so that means that they would effectively render you unable to play the game anymore, even though you paid for the game and you are playing the game offline. So they are monitoring how you play the game. This is how stupid it is. This is why I am like literally not investing in Steam so much anymore. They are monitoring how you play the game, guys. And this is when things get really frightening. Steam can institute a policy if they chose to that could limit the amount of time you would even be allowed to play your games. So if society decides that, men are playing too many video games, we need to put these policies in place that limit the amount of time that you can play your games, they can do that through Steam. They can limit the amount of time that you can play your games, the amount of access you have to your games, because they're saying that games are destroying society and they're destroying men. And women as a whole would back this because they believe men are supposed to be out there serving society and serving women. But that would not result in men going out to society. That would only result in more men, getting into emulation and stealing the games that they actually want to play. That would result in men finding other forms of entertainment. It would basically just shift over to movies and so forth. A lot of guys would also focus on older consoles. So those older consoles would start costing a ton. They would start picking up as many physical games as they could. Games from the PlayStation 2 era. Those were good days. PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, games that have an offline experience, Nintendo Switch, those would become very popular. They would become a currency among men that really want to enjoy games. So guys would make a shift towards older games and trading and basically trading files around. So again, piracy would become rampant. And that would basically be it. Men leaving society, avoiding society, and just concluding, okay, so this is society really HATEs me, so I'm just going to do as much as I possibly can to avoid this evil, vindictive, nasty, disgusting society. Yeah.
Because of the situation, some men may feel a sense of worthlessness and resentment. Some men might take an hour to clean up the house and fetch the kids, but the rest of the day they sleep or play games. In some cases, the wives work and then come home to finish the chores their husbands were meant to do but didn't. And whilst this might cause huge marriage problems, it still feels better off to the husbands. If asked what they do for a living, saying they're on a break or working on a project beats the humiliation of saying they work at McDonald's with a useless degree on their back. Men without families have nothing to lose, so they stop working because no woman would even want them anyway. They can't afford to date, they can't afford a family, and since their own families are supportive, it somehow justifies them giving up and staying at home, rather than facing these societal problems head on. With prices rising, getting hired becoming harder and harder by the day, and inequality becoming rampant within society, most men are just deciding to give up, because instead of facing the hardships of having a job, it just seems so much easier to escape, whether it be terminally being online, playing video games all day, or hiding behind doing chores at home to show they still have a purpose and are doing their best.
Now, here's where things get very interesting, and I absolutely love this. No one is talking about the economic impact things are having on women. If you go on TikTok, the majority of people who are crying about inflation are not men. The majority of people who are crying about inflation and not being able to survive are women. So they're acting like women are surviving and thriving while men are struggling to, get on their level. This is a complete and utter lie. Women's jobs are the most at risk of being replaced with AI and technology in the coming years. Women are struggling more than men financially in this economy. Women are also doing gig work, an increasing number of women. Women are facing high levels of unemployment. But society is saying that, oh, the women are doing great. It's the men who are losers. It's the men who are not able to adapt to society. The girls are just fine. It's the boys who are falling behind. This is absolute nonsense. The average woman today is not able to take care of herself. She cannot cook for herself. She cannot clean for herself. She is not financially literate. Women actually have higher rates, significantly higher rates of financial illiteracy than men. Men are also more likely to invest in various things, everything from cryptocurrency to stocks. So as a result of that, men will undoubtedly continue to have the lion's share of wealth compared to women in society over time. A lot of what women have is actually debt masked as wealth. Men, and this is the truth, pay 80% of all taxes in society. When a man passes away, he will leave a surplus on the economy. When a woman passes away, she will leave a deficit. A man over the course of his life will put more money into the economy than he takes out. A woman over the course of her life will take out more money out of the economy than she puts into it. So as men are walking away from society, it only leaves devastation for society. No one talks about how badly men are treated by women in society. No one talks about how badly society treats men. No one talks about the system, the media, how the media portrays men, and the indoctrination. Men are increasingly waking up and finding out what's going on because they have guys like Uncle Angry. We're telling them what's happening. They have guys like Uncle Angry that are telling them about the boomers and the miserable little zoomers. And as a result of that, they're waking up and they're realizing that it's not worth it. I'm going to do just enough to survive and thrive and no more and simply live my best life. These guys that are walking away, they're not miserable. They're ecstatic because they realize they do not need a relationship to be happy. And now they can focus on the things that make them happy, such as playing games or just relaxing.
The point being that for many men in 2024, if they're gonna be disrespected and feel worthless, they may as well choose the easy way out than a battle. If respect had a currency on how it would affect your life directly, you would see a different picture. A man with a job with high pressure, long hours, and doing something that makes him feel degraded would be worth say $100, but staying at home playing games and escaping, all while being with the people he loves, is probably worth $200 because of how it affects him. This explains why more and more men are deciding to drop out of society rather than face it head on, as it just seems to be the easier path. path. If it's a choice between two paths, one that offers little satisfaction while the other provides comfort, it's easy to see why men are going this route. But the thing is, this is a terrible mistake. And this is creating problems that we've never seen before. If there is no emphasis or any facilitation of the need to aspire to something greater and the game seems rigged to most who are playing it, it's hardly a surprise record numbers of men are dropping out and giving up on the game entirely. The problem is that there's a huge group of men, roughly about 7 million in America between the ages of 25 and 55, who are not working and are actively not looking for work.
Guys, I kept on telling you that they're lying. The media is lying about it. The government's lying about it. First, they said it was 3 million men back in 2023. I told you guys it's not 3 million, it's over 30 million. Then they said it was 7 million men. Okay? That's in this video, he says 7 million. Now the media is saying that it's over 10 million men. Guys, it's over 30 million men that have walked away. Over 30 million men are not working. They're chilling. They're relaxing at home. They're playing video games. They're sleeping. Some of them don't play games. They just basically lay in bed and relax and enjoy themselves. All right. They might listen to music. They eat some good food. And they just don't care about the rest of society. That's the honest to goodness truth right now. Society doesn't care about them, so why would they care about society? They have no stake in society. If you have no authority, okay, then but you have responsibility, that makes you an SLAVE. So why would you fight for a society that doesn't fight for you? Why would you fight for a society that absolutely despises you and HATEs you? Telling boys that they need to learn how to cry, but then also be good men, and men that sacrifice is an absolute joke. Any idiot can see that it's a bad deal. Even a monkey in a cage can tell when it's not being treated fairly compared to the others. They did a test not too long ago where they took two monkeys, they put them in different cages, and then when they would pull a lever, they would be rewarded with food. And then after a while, they stopped one of the monkeys, because they basically figured out, okay, I'm going to pull the lever and then blah, 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 I'll get food. But then after a while, one monkey would pull the lever and he would no longer get food, while the other monkey would pull the lever and he would get food. And the monkey that would not get the food then started to go absolutely ballistic because it realized that it was being treated unfairly. It had to perform the same amount of labor that the other monkey was performing, but it was not being given the same treatment, even though they were both equals in the situation. And in society today, they will just gaslight men and say that you're silly. You're born men. You have everything. You were born with a golden spoon in your mouth. What you need is more gender equality. What you need to do is learn how to be a better ally. It's an absolute and utter joke. But like I said, the great part about all of this is the fact that they're not talking about women. Women are suffering right now financially, but they're acting like women are doing great. You have all of these women calling themselves boss babes and saying that men who don't want to pay their bills, men who don't want to give them money, give them the icks, while they're basically walking the streets late at night alone. Yeah, sweetie, you're broke. You can't even afford an Uber ride home, okay? And you're like saying this guy gives you the icks because he doesn't want to pay for your Uber. Low. Guys, these women have done it to themselves, and society is basically gaslighting, just like women are gaslighting. Half of all women are going to be childless and single in just a couple of years. Come 2030, 45% of all women between the ages of 25 and 44 will be childless and single. That's not counting single mothers. When you factor in single mothers, you're looking at a single rate among women of around 70 to 90%. Men are not going to subsidize their living. If society tries to tax men, men will just pay the tax. That's not going to lead to them re-engaging with society, helping women or society, and forming family units. It's not happening. Women are going to have to turn to the state for this, and the state will have to provide for them. The thing is that the state only provides for women as much as women are able to reallocate wealth and resources back to the state. If women fail to do this, then the state does not do anything for them. Think about it. They reward women through the family court system. They reward women through criminal court system, everything by women using these systems to reallocate wealth and resources from men to the state, and the state gets their cut, women get their cut, and everyone is happy. But if women fail to do these things, if they're single and childless, then they're not providing value to the state. They're not allowing the state to reallocate public funds to women and then get a cut of those public funds that are being used, so basically funneling money or laundering it. The state is not getting a cut of that money. So now what value does she actually provide to the state? Nothing. So the state is not going to be there to help her. The women basically have special privileges while men have special punishments. This doesn't mean that the state is feels that women are better than men. More so, the state is just using women to demoralize men and make life harder for men, so men walk away from society, and as a result the state can do whatever it wants. If you want to destroy a country, destroy the men. If you want to destroy the men, use women to destroy the men. A country without its men is not a country. A country without its men is a wasteland.
Now, COVID certainly had a hand in accelerating these figures. One question posed to these dropouts was how many of these men were on pain medication, and almost half of these men admitted to taking pain medication daily. And aside from those who desperately need it, these figures could indicate that men are aimlessly numbing themselves to their new reality. And this is great for society, as people don't have to deal with this huge problem. And what's even more shocking is that 40% of these men do have some kind of degree.
What sort of men are in this group? Demographically, education, family structure, ethnicity, who makes up this group?
Surprisingly large, we say, representation of guys with college or even college degrees. 40% of this group has at least some college, and as I recall, about a fifth or a sixth are college grads.
The decision to be in this state is closely related to changing times. We've already discussed the effects of brain rot in another upload, which disabled problem solving in Generation Z and has already presented problems in finding jobs.
So what's even more interesting about this is that almost half of all men dropping out of society, walking away, leaving society behind, staying at home, playing video games, and living their best lives are college educated men. Yeah, society is screwed. Society is absolutely screwed. And I love the fact that at no point do they talk about the way that society and women treat men in society. Look at the UK right now. It's Orwellian in the UK. It's dystopic in the UK. You know, if you are a man or a boy, you will be reported to the Department of Terrorism if you are simply suspected of misogyny or extreme misogyny. That's how bad it is. Not to the police, but to the Department of Terror. How insane is that? Guys, look how bad miserable our society is, where I actually have to spell these things to you. All right? I have to spell them to you. I have to spell them out because I cannot say them out. This is the Orwellian society that we live in. And it's only going to get worse. But like I said, I just don't care. You know, I saw Dragon Age. Things used to bother me more. Oh, Doctor Who is gone, extremely woke. Oh, well, Dragon Age is just terrible. You know what? I just don't care. I'm just going to get as much money as I possibly can, buy my crypto, and live the best life I can. I don't care about this society, you know? And that's the feelings of most men right now. We are not stakeholders in it. We are prisoners. Women are operating as agents of the state, and men are basically prisoners of the state. Women are given special privileges while men are given special punishments. Men are damn well aware now that the smartest move is to not play at all and to opt out and to jump and, if available, turn to social safety nets like Medicaid, like food stamps, like SSI or SSDI, Social Security Disability, okay? And then live comfortably away from society. Guys, give a man a Nintendo. A lot of men give a man a Nintendo Switch, and and basically that's about it. A roof over his head and a place to poop, food to eat, a little food to eat. That's it. The average man is happy as heck as long as they have a little bit of entertainment, a place to sleep, and that's a place to poop, and that's about it. They don't need much. So many men are living comfortably, out of a backpack. I'm just telling you the truth, and they wouldn't have it any other way. We talk about the floor gang, and they'll be in the comments maybe. Floor gang, guys who like to sleep on the floor, and that's how they like it. They, you know, they they don't want any more than that. They So many guys relocate constantly. They basically just pick up and leave. Men are by nature minimalist as well. Okay? So, you have these men who are living simple lives of luxury and comfort, and now you have a new trend, the importance of looking poor. So while women are going around looking wealthy because they are looking for status and prestige, men are now getting into this trend of looking poor to avoid attention so they can stack their money and live relatively comfortable lives. Even in China right now, this is the new wave where men are avoiding relationships and dating. The simp economy is dying over there, and some men are just living off the interest from their money. If you are a man and you have $500,000 in savings, right? And sometimes you don't even need that much. But you're a man and you have $500,000 in savings. You can just basically live off the interest in some cases. If you're living with family, or you own a home, or you found other ways to minimize your cost of living, so your rent is not very expensive. You live in a state where your rent may only be around $500 to $600 a month. Maybe you're only renting a room or a small studio. You don't need much at all. I mean, let's say your rent is $600 a month. That's only going to work out to $7,200 a year. And then what else do you need? You're cooking all of your own food. Many of you will go down, you're cooking your own food. A lot of you are able to keep your food expenses as low as $500 to $1,000 a month. I mean, when everything is said and done, you can lower your cost of living, if you don't eat out, especially, down to really $1,500 a month or less. So you have around $25,000 a year coming in from just the interest on your money, and you're only spending, let's say, maybe $1,800 a year, and to live well, to cover your food costs, and everything else, and you have video games galore and everything you could need. I mean, you can basically spend $1,000 a month on games, and most people aren't. You basically don't have to work. That's the kind of situation we are in with a lot of men. And it's literally not just men who have significant amounts of money in the bank. There are other factors to consider as well. For example, if you're on Social Security disability and you're able to get public housing, because, hey, you're not able to work anymore, so you get yourself a place in public housing, and now you're able to live basically for free or damn near for free. And yet again, like I said, your rent is only maybe $500 a month. So that's only, $500 a month. So now that works out to only $6,000 a year. And you're also collecting your Social Security disability, and that could be anywhere from $1,000 a month to $2,000 or more. So you have your Social Security disability coming in. You have extremely low rent. You also you're also getting assistance with things like transportation. So because of your disability, so you save money on transportation. Your Medicaid will provide rides to things like your doctor visits and so forth. And again, you're going to have Medicaid, so you're getting free health care. You don't have to pay for prescriptions. Yeah, guys, you have all of these things working for you. You've got free health care. You've got damn near free housing. You have a check coming to you every single month. And, I said this before, a gaming PC or a nice gaming laptop, those are one-time purchases. You don't really need much. A PlayStation 5, that is a one-time purchase. Your video games, these are for now, at least these are one-time purchases. I mean, even if you are going to go with something like Game Pass, and it's not, I don't like these subscription services, but if we look it up, how much does Game Pass cost? When we look up the price of Game Pass right now, I just did look it up. Game Pass Ultimate cost $19.99 per month for access to hundreds of games on console, PC, and cloud, plus online multiplayer, EA Play membership, and member discounts. So, that works out to $20 a month and $240 a year. For the average single man, they're just going to go and pay for that for the entire year. So that again is not a lot of money. 240 bucks. I mean, what? Let's say with taxes, that works out to, let's say, 10% in taxes. So that works out to, let's say, 24 bucks there. So let's say we're paying around $265. All right, let's round it off, in fact, to 270. So $270 a year for Game Pass, and you're playing all of these games on Game Pass on your Xbox that you spent $300 for because you have a Series S, or maybe you spent $500 on it for the Series X. It doesn't really matter. That was a one-time purchase, and you're happy as a pig in mud. What else do you need to do? Or you have a Steam account and you've bought some games on Steam, and you really only play the same few games, but it doesn't matter because again, you buy all of your games on discount, you buy all of your games cheap. Guys, for the average man, you can live comfortably and not worry about anything. And if you don't have to worry about bills, you don't have to worry about kids and a wife and dating, and whenever you want physical intimacy, you'll just go and rub one out. You really don't have to worry about anything at all. They think that these men are sitting at home covered in depression, that have given up on society. They don't realize that these men are enjoying their best lives. A lot of these guys are building home gyms, working out at home, playing video games, eating well, preparing the meals that they really enjoy, and watching society burn from a distance because they despise society. They don't seem to comprehend that it's not just that men have given up on society. Men despise a society that despises them.
They are quick to quit at the first difficult task and move on to find something else, but what happens when options run dry and they find themselves simply stuck in limbo? Giving up seems to be the next step, and accepting that is easy when they're discouraged by the situation. Working off of surveys, the data compiled indicates that these men are not only not working, but they're cutting themselves off from their communities, or there's no incentivization for them to even have any community in the first place. They're hiding out because going out would mean meeting new people who might oppose their lifestyles. It makes it uncomfortable. Why leave when you can just aimlessly watch brain rot content and numb yourself with weed or pain medication and stay inside, in the warm comfort of home? And any sexual needs you have can be satisfied with pixels on a screen. This lifestyle is increasingly becoming more and more normal for men in the West. But what's important to note is that men don't want to be this way. It's a horrible lifestyle, it's depressing, it's atomizing. What this really is just a coping mechanism or a form of self-defense.
You see, guys, here's where things get intriguing. I have this guy in the comments who basically said that, called me an INCEL because I'm choosing not to be in a relationship and focusing on myself. And he basically said that he called me an INCL. I actually posted the screenshot of it. And of course, a lot of you guys came after him. But the very intriguing thing is that, some people said, how can you be an INCEL if you are voluntarily celibate? Now, keep in mind, there is actually a group of people in the INCL community called volcels who are voluntarily celibate. But the thing about these people they are actually very horrible individuals. You see, they are not simply celibate men. They are people who have chosen to remain celibate, but that have also gone on to join the INCL community. These are men who absolutely have very negative feelings towards the opposite gender. These are not good men. These are very bad men. The typical man, however, may not be harboring these feelings, and they don't identify with that community because they just want to live their best lives. Then they're walking away. Many men are basically losing physical attraction towards modern women. What man wants to be with an individual that has an extraordinarily high body count? Men are also attacked and shamed for things like the male gaze. So if a man simply views or expresses any type of interest in a woman based around physical intimacy, his name can be destroyed and he can be slandered and have everything taken away from him. The lie that they're perpetuating in society is that men have it so easy that they can turn to dating apps and they get very easy access to physical intimacy. The reality is that only 5 to 10%, the top 5 to 1%, the top 1 to 5% of men are benefiting from dating apps. And they've actually done a study where they found that on dating apps like Tinder, specifically Tinder, 80% of women were all choosing the same 1% of men on the application. Those are startling numbers, and there are simps in the comments who are trying to say that it's not true, even when other content creators have covered this, cited these statistics, and I've also shown you guys proof of this from other articles that basically say it's 1%. 80% of women on these apps are choosing the same 1% of men. All right, meaning they are not interested in 99% of men. And of course, the Sims are like, that's not what it's saying. It's saying that, they're also choosing the same 1%, but of course, they're choosing other men as well. You're angry, you're full of it, you're just an angry guy, you're lying to these men, you're doing a lot of irreparable harm. You need to stop it, you need to be stopped. Guys, even if I tell the facts as they are, there will be these psychopaths who will try to come and distort the facts, because these are the individuals who are responsible for the disparities that we have in society. These are the individuals who are responsible for the division and the destruction of society. These are the individuals known as the Sims. They are despicable, evil, wicked, vindictive little creatures that have created all of the pain and suffering that we are going through today. This is the reason why I say that we should not direct our anger towards women. And the reality is that the actions and behaviors of women are byproducts of a society that has programmed them to despise and dislike men. More so, it is the Sims that have created this problem and continue to push it forward, because this is how they survive. They are vindictive, they are spiteful, they are traitors, but you have to be very careful with the word traitor, because they never supported us. All right? They were always against us, and they will gaslight you to the end, because they're a bunch of wicked little punks.
Against a society that's becoming increasingly hostile to these men. Up until recently, the problem has been invisible. These figures weren't shown in any statistics or surveys because they slipped through the cracks until very recently. So why did they slip through the cracks? Well, it's easy to see. They simply don't fit the victim criteria. Some have degrees, they're in the prime of their lives, and it was their choice to quit. It's easily overlooked and only comes to light as the numbers rise. Nicholas Upstart wrote a book called Men Without Work, and has since exposed and addressed the problems in his book. He says he is trained to look for hidden in plain sight problems, which is how he stumbled upon this issue. You see, these men are not causing trouble, at least for now, and they don't seem to be drawing any attention to themselves. On the contrary, they keep to themselves. So surveys and statistics just don't include them at all. They don't even register on the scale, and people in society think this is a joke issue. And it's also reasonable to conclude that some of these men may work, but in the underground economy.
These men are making just enough to survive and thrive, and no more. Okay? That's how they're surviving. Some of these men do also work. They may work for Uber, they may do some DoorDash. They basically will do just enough work to survive, and that's it. And they're not going to contribute anything else. Some guys are doing day trading. Day trading is a very, very important skill. And the thing is that when you run a business, when you run it, there's a lot of tax write-offs that you can also get for running your business. So if you have a place to live, that counts as an office. If you have a cell phone, that counts as, and you use it for business, that counts as well. So these men can set up an LLC, and they can basically write off most of, if not all of their tax liabilities by understanding the tax code. And that's not something that's likely to change anytime soon. If they start taxing unrealized gains, then men will basically create new spaces and new economies where this type of trading will happen. As I've said, men will start trading in Pokemon cards. And if that even becomes outlawed, men will simply start trading in goods and services. In fact, that's what a lot of men are already doing. This was something that absolutely blew my mind. There's an entire economy where men are trading services for goods and goods for services. So, for example, let's say you're a plumber and someone needs a plumber to do repairs in their home. They may have specific items like a bunch of goat milk or a bunch of beef. They have a farm and they have a bunch of beef. The plumber comes and he reviews the beef. He checks the beef and then he says, okay, how many pounds of beef will I receive? Okay, well, you'll receive this many pounds of beef for the labor. He goes, he completes the job. He takes the beef, and now he has to pay no taxes on any of that. And then he stores the meat in a cooler. This is how a lot of men are operating. They are decentralizing themselves from the state. You've got lots of guys who are getting solar electricity panels, getting a shed, buying a piece of land, putting the shed on the land, insulating it out, making it livable, getting a solar panel, building a well, or getting themselves a water tank, storing water in the tank that way. There are companies that can come and fill it up as well, and after that they're good to go. If they need to go potty, they have a basic setup inside of the shed, and they may also have a outhouse and a place to shower. It doesn't all if it's very, very, or it's well set up, and they have a nice big piece of land to themselves. Some people are just going and getting themselves a camper, putting the camper on top. This is another secret: putting a camper on top of the land, and then living in the land, living in the camper, and basically, while they do get mail delivered to the camper, they do not have to pay any property taxes for the camper, because the camper technically is not a house. Okay, so even though it is considered as property, and it is still housing for them, and it can be extremely nice in there. They'll have, many of them will even have a queen size bed in there. It is still technically a mobile vehicle, or it's still a or it's a part of a part of something that would be attached to a vehicle. Hence, it's not considered a house. And because it's not considered a house, they do not have to pay taxes on it, and they can live in it quite comfortably without having to worry about anything or anyone else. They have a bathroom in there. They have a kitchen in there. They have everything that they could need and want in there. They have their video game set up, and they don't care about anyone or anything else. Men are realizing that as time passes, they never really needed a relationship to be happy. It was all Hollywood smoke and mirrors. They were lied to. And the notion that, if you work hard, someone will love you, that's not how love works. All right? That's basically you striving to be a utility, and someone's going to love you for being a utility. That's a joke. All right? We've been gaslit for far too long. And men are now like, you know what? Guys, we spend our lives being kind. Be nice. Be kind. What? No one likes the nice guy. Why the hell? And we end up giving more than we can even afford. So we find ourselves not even being able to survive, because this is how we are conditioned by society, until we wake up and realize, you know what? I need to be selfish, because no one's going to do it for me. No one's going to take care of me. No one's going to prioritize my well-being. So I have to do that, because men are conditioned to be selfless. So now men are waking up and realizing they need to be selfish. And as a result of this, it's creating grave effects on the economy. Guys, you can never make a man work harder than he'll work himself. If they try to crack down on men and actually put men into deeper states of SLAVERY, it's not going to benefit them, because men will just do as much as they're told, as much as they're forced to do, and no more. Men are not going to spend countless hours studying and learning to strive for more and greatness. They'll do the menial labor that they're required to do to survive, and that's it. And then they'll eat, sleep, and poop, and keep it moving. If you push men further into further states of indentured servitude or SLAVERY, then men will just basically adapt to it, and they'll do the bare minimum, and that's it. That's not going to lead to a thriving society. That's only going to lead to greater poverty and destitution, and not so for men, but for women in society, because men pay 80% of all taxes, and women make 80% of all consumer purchases. Men will leave a surplus on the economy when they pass away. Women will leave a deficit. So as men are walking away from society, and that's tax revenue that's drying up, and right now the state cannot even pay the interest on its debt. So what do you think is going to happen? Yes, they're sending inflation up to lower the value of the debt so that they can eventually pay it. But the fact is that it's actually reducing the value of money so much that people are suffering all around. So the more that they push this, the more they're only pushing people into extraordinary states of destitution, because so many are living on credit right now. And that's not going to last forever.
Work like formal cash jobs, or even shady legal ways of making money. But of course, this is just a minor portion of these men. We need to address the problem head on. How is the situation getting this bad? These men have completely lost their purpose in life. All of their duty, their hopes, their responsibilities, their own dignity and value. It's being completely decimated at the moment. And we're seeing this with the form of radicalization online. growing hatred and division, and a general apathy towards society as a whole. And the longer this is ignored, the harder it's going to be addressed down the line.
The average man walking away is not an INCEL. The average man walking away is a man who just doesn't want to have anything to do with society anymore or relationships, and instead live his best life free of both. And also, shout out to the 1 hour gang. Shout out to the 1 hour gang. If you made it to 1 hour, shout out to the 1 hour gang. I haven't been doing a lot of them lately, but shout out to the 1 hour gang. Shout out to you all.
More men today than ever feel disconnected, disillusioned, and left behind by a world that seems increasingly indifferent to their struggles. While GDP numbers and employment stats may sound like an easy, good solution on paper, especially to government bureaucracies, it will never really fix the reality of the situation for normal people. The real challenge we face today in the West is to find purpose and meaning again, to have any reason to even want to participate and achieve greatness in society. We should focus on creating environments where people can thrive, where beauty, philosophy, and higher noble pursuits are actively encouraged by the cities and countries that we inhabit, which would give millions of men a reason to care again.
It sounds nice in theory, but men are done and not looking back, guys. What do you think? Men are slowly giving up and disappearing from society, and society is to blame. Let me know your thoughts and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.